everyone, welcome back to Spooky Sunday. This episode is going to be a little bit different from the other ones because I'm going to be reviewing 4 movies. And it's going to be all of the Blumhouse movies that were released on Amazon Prime. I decided to do just one video and review all of them. So it's going to be quick little short reviews for each of them, and I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I'll rank them at the end. So, let's just get started with the reviews. The Lie is about a girl who kills her best friend, and her parents have to cover up the murder. So, this was the first one that I watched, and honestly, I thought it was pretty good. Which is apparently an unpopular opinion. A lot of people don't like this movie and think it's the worst one, which I don't agree with. But I could see why people would think that way, because it's very long. It should have been cut down a little bit. And also the ending is kind of crazy. That's about as best as I could explain that without going into spoilers, which I completely understand. Watching something like this can be a little maddening because you think that you could do better in a similar situation. But I think that that was kind of the point of this movie, that the parents really don't know what they're doing. So of course it's going to be maddening, some of the decisions they make. And then, you know, hindsight, you're like, oh, that was a stupid decision. But at the time, you could have been like, oh yeah, like I could see why the parents did this. But going into some pros, I really like the acting in this movie. Joey King is fantastic and as Kayla. Peter Sarsgaard as her father. He's probably my favorite performance in this whole movie. He was fantastic. And you just feel so awful for him. Like, that he has to go through this and have to cover up his daughter's deed. And you could see how it takes a toll on him, because the entire time he's like, no, it was an accident, it was an accident. And stuff is revealed later, and this movie was just so crazy from beginning to end, but it was a little bit slow and was a little bit too long. They should have cut some of the scenes that were in the movie. Overall, I'm going to give this one a 7.25 out of 10, and I recommend it. Black Box is about a man who gets into a car accident with his wife and ends up killing her and losing his memory. So he goes to treatment to try to regain his memories, but he starts to question who he really is. So this one, I'll just say it right off the bat, is my favorite movie. This one was fantastic from beginning to end. It was super hard for me to think of a con for this movie, but before I even talk about cons, I want to talk about some pros. The acting is phenomenal. The story is really gripping. You're just thrown into it right from the beginning. And they never let go. And it's just so sad watching what happens to this poor guy. But at the same time, I don't want to say it's fun, but you're just gripped the entire time for this ride. And there's never a dull moment to where you're like, oh, that scene wasn't that good. Or, oh, I wish that was a little bit better. Every scene is perfectly placed. There never feels like there's a scene that shouldn't be there. And I absolutely love that. In terms of cons, I do have one, which is that it treats the audience like we're dumb. An example of that is a handshake. I don't want to get into much more details than that, but they've replayed this handshake so many times throughout the movie that we kind of know that it's going to be important. They never try to shy away from it. They'll do it like 3 times in one scene. So I would say that's probably the one con, that it treats us like we're dumb. It tries to explain to us when we understand what's happening. Overall, I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. And of course, I recommend it. Evil Eye is about a romance that turns sour when a woman is afraid that her daughter is dating someone from her past. So, this one, I will come out and say I think that this one was the worst one, but that's not saying that this is a bad movie. It was pretty good. It just had more flaws, I felt like, than some of the other movies. But I do want to talk about some pros with it, which the first pro that I have to just say is I absolutely love the message of this movie. I don't want to get into details about what the message is because then it spoils the entire movie. But for the message alone, I would say you should watch this movie. The acting and the cinematography are also very good in this movie, but where I find a lot of issues with it is within its plot. You already know what's going to happen within the first 10 minutes of the movie. And I was watching with my friend and he was like, no, there's gonna be a twist or something. And I was like, no, they've already told us too much information so that we know what's gonna happen. And unfortunately, it's very guessable what happens. Like, it's very easy to know what's gonna happen, where there's gonna be a scare, where the big twist that we already know was gonna happen, which was really unfortunate. It needed one more plot twist, or it shouldn't have told us right from the beginning what was gonna happen. And in terms of another con, they replay a flashback of the mother, like, a lot of times. And I don't mind the fact that she's getting this flashback. It's more so the fact of how much they do it. Kind of like with Black Box, how they kept on replaying this handshake. It's the same with this flashback. In one scene, they replay the flashback 4 times. So, I would say that those are like really big cons and kind of bogged down the movie, but it's not bad. It's not a bad movie. It's just those issues are really pertinent, so you would have to deal with those. Overall, I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10, and like I said, I do recommend it. Nocturne is about a timid music student who tries to outshine her popular sister after she discovers a mysterious theory book. So I was really excited going into this one because as a music student, I wanted to see how they tied together music and horror, and I think they did a pretty good job. I wish there was a little bit more music, but that was just kind of like a personal wish. It wasn't like the movie was bad because it didn't do that, and it's not even a nitpick, but there is a lot of music that is in the movie, and it's absolutely gorgeous, the score. All the pieces that they picked were very specific, and by that, I kind of mean that there's a reason that they picked them, and it had more meaning than just, oh, this is the piece that we're going to choose. In terms of other cons, our main character is absolutely fantastic. She is the best part about this movie, and she carries it. As soon as you hit the 3rd act, that's when her character starts to be... Oh, I don't want to spoil this. This is when her character really just explodes into something that we could kind of see coming, but it's in full effect now. And the last 45 minutes of this movie is so amazing. I had such a blast watching it. But I think where I drew an issue with the movie was that it tries too hard to be an A24 film or an Ari Aster film. And it has the same creepiness of those types of films, but it doesn't do as well in the character development front, which is why Hereditary is one of the best horror movies that has come out in recent years. The character development in that movie is so good, and unfortunately, that's where the issue is in Nocturne, that the character development isn't that great, and it really brings down the movie in that regard. The main character, her development is really good, but it's everyone else around her that isn't that great. In terms of one more con, I would probably say that there's this weird scene where they try to scare us with this girl and a mirror, and it just wasn't scary. It was actually kind of funny. I would say that's probably the only other con that I had with this movie. Overall, I'm going to give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. And I recommend it. So, in order from the best movie to my least favorite, I would say it is Black Box, Nocturne, The Lie, and Evil Eye. So thank you everyone for watching this last episode of Spooky Sunday, and I'm hoping that you enjoyed all the content this October. We still have a few more reviews to go, so be on the lookout for those. But let's flash forward to the next review.